What's up, guys? JT Anime and Nerd here, bringing you all that nerdy goodness. Today is another special day for me because this video is episode 1 of my Disney crossover anime fanfiction dubbed Fantasia Adventures. Before we begin, I just want to give a shout out to YouTuber Isaac Carlson, who was once known as Watso Videos, because if not for his videos on Disney lore and theories, most of the concepts in this fanfiction series would not be in it. So even if it was unintentional, I want to give credit where credit is due. Isaac Carlson is a big inspiration for this fan fiction series, and I really hope if he stumbles upon it one day, he can give me his honest opinion of it. Good or bad, I'll still be happy that he at least checked it out. If you guys like this video, don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and put down in the comment section below on your on your thoughts of this first episode of Fantasia Adventures. With all that said and done, I'm JT Anime. Enjoy the video, and I'll check you guys later.
In the era of fairy tales and magic, stories are what molded this world into the way it is now, both in past and in future,
Said the narrator. Suddenly, we see a silhouette of a shadowy figure wielding a short sword, wrapped in a purple dark aura. The figure seems to be in battle against a powerful warrior, silhouetted by an aura of blue lightning, wielding a long sword, only being able to see his shining gold eyes. The two figures clash in midair multiple times, causing shock waves around the rocky field.
but this is not simply the story of a hero,
The narrator clarifies.
a
The figure in dark then lifts his right hand up and begins to generate a giant orb of dark magical energy.
for this is a story.
The figure in blue lightning aura then and pulls back his sword, getting ready for an attack. The dark figure then throws down the giant orb of dark magical energy, as the blue figure shoots a beam of light from the tip of his sword, clashing the two attacks, causing an explosion that envelops the area in a flashing light.
This is the story of a boy who seeks to make the world smile.
Universal date 9950. Gamma Quadrant. Many years later, in a distant part of the Gamma Quadrant, a lone purple ship is zooming through space, trying to outrun two Star Cruiser spaceships. Within the cockpit of the purple ship, as a pilot with a cybernetic arm and suit pushes a button, activating a hologram that shows the silhouette of a horned man with glowing eyes.
Did you acquire it?
Asked the horned man in an echoing voice.
I got the package, but Star Command's on my tail.
The pilot replies.
Well, don't just sit there. I'll run them,
Shouts the horned man.
It's not that easy, my Emperor. The only place to go is uncharted null space,
The pilot says.
The Rangers won't follow, but there's no guarantee I'll even make it out of there. No excuses, only results,
The horned man shouts.
Activate the Ada beacon if you get lost. Bring me that crystal.
The pilot then pulls out a particularly small green crystal orb.
As you wish, Emperor Zurg.
The pilot responds. The pilot pushes a button on the console in front of him, triggering a boost for his ship. The pilot's ship boosts into uncharted null space, causing one of the Rangers chasing him to show an expression of shock.
Star Cruiser 834, fall back,
Says Ranger 1 through ship communication.
But Agent Z's getting away.
Ranger 2 responds. Better to lose him in null space than follow him to our deaths, Ranger 1 responds. Meanwhile, on planet Montresor, a lone ship enters the atmosphere and lands next to the famous landmark of the planet known as the Benbow Inn. Leaving his ship is a familiar man with a blue vest and with gold-colored adornments. The man enters the Benbow Inn. Knock, knock, the man says. Cleaning the last of the dishes on the table in the dining room, a woman with a few gray hairs turns to look upon the man with a happy expression on her face.
James Pleiades Hawkins,
Said the lady with glee. The woman then puts down the tray of dishes and goes to hug Jim. Hey, Mom. Glad to be home, Jim said. Mrs. Hawkins is then flustered for a moment.
You know you're early. Everybody's coming over tomorrow to celebrate your promotion to commander.
Mrs. Hawkins said.
I also hear there's a girl involved.
Jim then begins to blush. Well, I mean, We're Mrs. Hawkins then walks up to her son, trying to tidy him up. But
All right, I've learned my lesson. Don't ask, don't tell.
Mrs. Hawkins interrupts. Mrs. Hawkins then holds Jim by the cheeks.
I'm so proud of you, Jim.
Mrs. Hawkins states.
You've come far from being the trouble-making teen I remember.
Mrs. Hawkins then walks away to attend to the dishes. Speaking of which, where's you know who? Asked Jim.
Same place you always went, and at that age.
Mrs. Hawkins responded somewhat casually. Jim then sighs for a moment. The way Ace lands. Jim and Mrs. Hawkins said in unison. Meanwhile, in the wastelands of Montresor, a scream is heard, only for an alien woman named Sally to reach a dead end in between a huge desert rock formation. A yellow alien with multiple eyes and a strange metal rectangle on his chest then approaches the alien woman slowly.
Come on, baby. Quit playing hard to get. All I'm asking for is a kiss. And all the money you got,
Said the yellow alien as he pulls out a blaster.
Please, someone help me!
Shouted the alien woman. The yellow alien then attempts to get closer to the woman. It's Torque, right? Asked a young-sounding voice. Torque then looks around, only to see behind him is a white-haired boy, wearing what appears to be Jim's old Naval Academy jacket over his shoulders like a cape. The white-haired boy is also holding Torque's wanted poster with his right hand, and holding a wooden greatsword over his shoulder with his left. The boy then looks thoroughly at the poster. Over 10,000 unibucks, huh? The boy asked. Star Command really must want you behind bars for some reason. Torque then turns with an angry expression on his face. No matter. The boy then tosses Torque's poster. The bounty's mine, the boy stated.
Oh yeah?
Torque then pulls out a second blaster.
Not today, baby.
Torque responded. The boy curls up a smile on his face, followed by charging at Torque with blinding speed.
The kid's fast,
Torque thought to himself, not even believing a human could have such speed. The boy then aims the tip of his wooden greatsword at Torque's neck, shocking Torque. The boy then just looks up at Torque with a smile on his face, while Torque looks down at him, quaking in anger.
I gotta admit, kid, I underestimated you,
Torque said.
However,
Torque then presses the metal rectangle on his chest, allowing him to multiply into 7 other clones of himself, which then take out blasters, revealing that Torque actually has 4 arms.
I won't be making that mistake again, baby.
Torque shouted. Despite this turn of events, the boy's expression turned from one of surprise to one of excitement. Suddenly, a blue blur appears, swiftly getting in between the boy and Torque at blinding speed. The Torque clones then fire their blasters all at once, creating a small explosion. The Torque clones are knocked back by the explosion, but then quickly get up.
Looks like you're sleeping with the space fishes tonight, baby,
Torque brags. The Torques then laugh at the thought of what they just did. However, as the smoke cleared, what appeared to be a blue furry ball swept up through the smoke and hit the 7 Torque clones like a pinball. The alien woman would then look in shock as the ball then hits the rock above her, but still rolls. The blue ball then bounces back at Torque Prime, only to unravel in midair, revealing a strange blue furry creature. Shouted the blue creature as he kicks Torque Prime in the face. After the blue creature's kick unconnects from Torque's face, the blue creature flips to stand next to the white-haired boy. The boy then pets the blue creature on the head. Good job, Stitch. Although we really have to talk about your foul language, the boy states. Ugh, Stitch replies. Torque Prime stands up, realizing that his clones were destroyed from Stitch's attack.
All right, baby.
Torque then pulls out 2 more blasters with his other 2 hands, and begins shooting the walls, scaring the alien woman. As the smoke cleared, the boy noticed that he made holes in the sides of the rock formation. Torque then presses on the cloning device on his chest, causing the boy to look up in surprise. We then see nearly countless Torque clones, both on the ground and within the holes in the rock wall Torque made.
Now let's see what you do against an armada,
Torque says. Despite the odds, the boy stands up and shows an excited smirk on his face. Looks like I'm getting my money's worth, the boy said. The boy then takes a battle-ready stance. You ready, pal? Ugh, responds as he takes his battle stance. As the boy, Stitch, and Orcs charge at each other, they let out screams of great ferocity, ready for what comes next. Moments later, we see the overview of the huge desert rock formation that the group was just fighting in. Within the dead end of the rock formation, we see many Etork clones unconscious and fading away from being defeated. Meanwhile, Torque Prime then falls to his back, beaten by the boy and his companion, Stitch.
in just 1 hour.
The boy then looks up at the alien woman with an expression of seriousness. As the woman looks at him, completely in shock at what she just saw.
The duo defeated over 50 Torques before Torque Prime himself was defeated,
said the narrator. The boy then gives a caring smile toward the woman. I hope you're all right, said the boy. The boy then begins to stagger and fall to his knees. Concerned, the alien woman acted quickly and ran to the boy. Naga, it said, in worry for his friend. The alien woman then approaches the boy.
Are you okay?
The alien woman asked.
We should call for a medic.
Nah, it's all right, the boy responded. I deal with wounds like this all the time. They'll heal in a day. The boy then looks at the alien woman. I'm just glad we were able to protect your smile, the boy said. The alien woman blushed for a moment.
Huh? But I'm not smiling.
The alien woman responded. The boy then stands up, beginning to feel a relief from the epic fight that just transpired. Yeah, but since we saved you, it means you can smile in the future, the boy stated. Am I wrong? The alien woman just looks up at the boy, flabbergasted by his words.
Who are you?
Just a boy trying to make the universe smile. But you can just call me Jack if you want. Meanwhile, the sound of sirens from police robots can be heard on its way to the area. Well, we better go, said Jack.
Huh? But what about the bounty?
The alien woman asked as she picks up a Torque's bounty paper. You can have it. I just like to mess with guys like that, the boy responds with glee. The boy then runs ahead with Stitch following behind, followed by the boy pulling out and releasing a portable version of Jim's old solar sailor. Come on, Stitch! The boy shouts.
Go Baja!
Stitch responds as it's on the boy's shoulder. The boy and Stitch then fly away on the solar sail as the police arrive to aid the alien woman. Excuse me, ma'am. Are you responsible for the capture of this dangerous man? Asked the robot cop.
Yes,
the woman responded. The alien woman then looks back at the direction of that the boy left in.
I just hit him with my purse and he was knocked out.
Well then, feel honored, ma'am, said the robot cop. You are now eligible to receive his bounty of 100,000 Unibucks. The alien woman now realizes her situation as she begins to get wide-eyed.
What?
Shouted the alien woman. Meanwhile, in the wasteland, Jack and Stitch arrive at the top of another desert rock formation, taking a break from running from the cops, and are far from where they just came from. Phew! If we'd stayed any longer, those cops would have chewed us up and spit us out for being vigilantes, the Jack states. Zah! Stitch responds. You said it, pal, Jack replies. The boy then looks on and sees another solar sailor heading in his direction, but from the opposite of where he just came from. The boy then smiles, chuckling in glee a bit, realizing who the person is. The solar sailor lands to reveal the rider to be Jim coming from the Benbow Inn. Ig bro, says Jack. Hey, Jack. Jack runs up to hug Jim. It's good to see ya, Jim states. Why are you here so early? Jack asks. Ma must have put you through the ringer when she found out. Yeah, but not as much
Just she'll put you through it when she finds out what you did, Jim says. Uh, and what exactly do you mean? Asked Jack in a nervous tone. Jim then pulls out a holophone, showing the report of an alien woman named Sally who brought Torque to justice, and that he's in custody of Star Command to be taken to the prison planet known as Planet PEC-7. But, but I'm not the one. But I'm not the one who you expect me to believe that this lady was strong enough to defeat a guy like Torque, asked Jim. Well, what, what do you expect? Asked Jack. I heard a scream and I was passing by. Nice try, Jim responded. Okay, fine, you got me, said Jack. You realize you're getting into more trouble than I did at your age, Jim said. Only difference is it's the kind of trouble I look for. Or Jack responds. Look at yourself, Jack, Jim explained. Do you really think Mom would want to see you getting hurt every time you go out? I know, I know she wouldn't, but I can't just stand by. Suddenly, we see a slight flashback of a young Jack crying in the middle of a burning town, presumably on Montresor, and watch everyone's smiles burn around me again. Jim places his hand back in the present. Jim places his hand on Jack's shoulder to comfort him. That wasn't your fault. It never was, Jim said. I know, Jack replied. Jack then stands up with determination in his eyes. But I'm not going to let it happen again, Jack says. I'm going to keep the promise I made to myself that day and fight for a world where everyone can smile. But what about you? Jim asked. Huh? Jack replied. By doing that, you're shouldering everyone's burden, Jim said. Why do you do that? Why do that to yourself? It's not your responsibility. As Jack looks downward, Stitch looks up at Jack, worried for his friend after what Jim said. Jack then smiles. It's okay, Jack replies. Fighting for everyone else's happiness. Jack pulls out his wooden greatsword at the hand, gripping the sword's hilt. In his hand, sword's hilt. That gives me a reason to always smile. So I don't plan to stop fighting or training to get stronger. At least until I can make a world where everyone can smile. Even if that dream is only real for just one day. Because what matters is I can make it a reality. Well, guess I can't talk you out of it. But I at least hope you'll be able to relax enough to celebrate with us tomorrow. Jack then got flustered for a moment.
Oh man, I forgot! Your big promotion!
Jack said in surprise. Yeah, don't sweat it, Jim replied. Just be there. It wouldn't be a party without you, bro. Jim then begins to take his leave.
You got it, Jim,
Jack said. Before leaving, Jim stopped for a moment. By the way, I know that's not the only reason you're out here, Jim said. Jack looks down for a moment, knowing what Jim meant. You still trying to find where we found you? Jim asked. I know finding the exact place you and Mom found me won't really give me any answers, but it's the best clue I've got to finding out where I came from, Jack replied. Does Mom know? Oh, you know? Asked Jim. No, not really, Jack replied. It's not that I think any less of her. She's still my mother. I just feel that it's not the highest priority right now. Jim then smiles and begins to take his leave again. Well, just be sure to rip it off like a band-aid, Jim said. Suspense only causes more drama. Jim then gets on his solar sailor and rides away. Meanwhile, Stitch looks back as he senses something in the wasteland and of Montresor. Jack is looking up at the direction, and Jim is leaving it. I know it doesn't make sense now, but one day I can tell you the truth about my Suddenly, something silent catches Jack's attention, almost as if he heard something no one else could. Jack looks around, only to see Stitch facing a certain direction, almost as if he could sense something coming from that direction. Did you hear that, Stitch? Asked Jack. It sounded like singing. Hagata! Shouted Stitch as he ran off to find what he sensed.
Hey, wait! Where you going?
Asked Jack as he ran and slipped down on the rock formation to catch up with Stitch. Stitch slides down to the bottom of the rock formation and then runs off in a certain direction. Jack follows behind and he catch up with Stitch, landing at the same spot before running and landing at the same spot, only to end up accidentally breaking the great sword hanging off his back.
Oh, shoot, not again.
And Jack then gets up and runs after Stitch.
Hold up, Stitch!
Shouted Jack as he tries to catch up to Stitch. Moments later, Jack would catch up with Stitch as the sun was beginning to set. Stitch is looking down into a crater, while Jack runs up next to Stitch, trying to catch his breath after all that running.
What's gotten into you?
Asked Jack.
Ajiba!
Stitch said as he points into the crater below. Jack looks down to see a light coming from the center of a particular rock formation, almost as if the rocks were molded to hide something at the center of the crater. Jack then reacts to something coming from the direction of the light in the crater. That's singing again.
It's coming from down there,
Jack said. Jack and Stitch then slide down the crater and approach its center in order to find the source of the light. As Jack and Stitch got closer, the light began to limit Jack and Stitch's vision. As the light then began to suddenly dissipate, Jack and Stitch could do nothing but look onward, as what appeared to be a sword with a black hilt stabbed into the center of what appears to be a magic circle. Jack then approaches the sword, as he looks upon it in awe.
A sword,
Jack said, as if by instinct. Jack reached for the hilt of the blade and began to pull it, releasing the sword with ease. Just then, Stitch reacts, looking around as if what he sensed earlier had disappeared from existence itself. Jack then lowers the blade and begins to hold it with both hands, one on its hilt and one on the bottom flat of its blade.
It's pretty cool looking. What's it doing all the way out here?
Jack asked. Suddenly, the sword begins to glow a bright yellow light, yet Jack somehow doesn't feel the need to look away, as the light fails to harm his sight.
What the what?
Asked Jack in surprise. The sword then begins to transform into from an ordinary medieval sword to a great sword with no guard that still felt as light as the medieval sword in his hands. Just then, the magic circle on the ground begins to shine a white light, only to then crack as if it was glass, making Jack realize he may have made a mistake picking up the sword. Jack then suddenly and comically runs in midair without going forward like a cartoon character.
Time to go, Stitch,
Jack said. Stitch then does the same run.
Ugh,
said Stitch before he and Jack zoom away back to the Benbow Inn. Meanwhile, a black flame like smoke slowly begins to emerge from the cracks in the magic circle. Meanwhile, in null space, Agent Z continues to search for a planet to land on.
The great, just great. Traveling at warp speeds nearly used up my crystallic fusion crystal,
said Agent Z in a distorted voice.
If I don't find a planet soon, I'll be stranded here.
Suddenly, a beeping sound comes from Agent Z's ship's console as it begins to blink a red glow, leading Agent Z to notice.
Looks like I spoke too soon,
Agent Z said to himself. Agent Z then heads straight for the new planet he's just found, eventually landing in its barren atmosphere. The visor of Agent Z's helmet shows signs of oxygen despite the planet being a barren wasteland.
Well, I guess it's safe to say this planet's got oxygen.
Agent Z then removes his helmet to reveal an alien and blue-faced man.
Or my name ain't Warp Dark Matter.
Suddenly a green glow begins to illuminate from Warp's pocket, only for him to pull out the green emerald orb he just retrieved.
That's interesting,
Warp said to himself. Warp then opens his wrist communicator on his right sleeve. Warp to Emperor Zurg. I think you're going to want to see this, Warp said into his communicator. Star Command, Gamma Quadrant. Meanwhile at Star Command, a particular Space Ranger is walking through a hallway as other Space Rangers pass him from both directions. The Space Ranger then enters an office. "Buzz Lightyear reporting for duty, Commander Nebula," said the Space Ranger. Nebula then looks up to see Buzz while looking over some papers on his desk. "Ah, Lightyear! About time," said Commander Nebula. "You said it was urgent, sir," Buzz responded. "The time's finally come," Commander Nebula said. "Zurg's finally slipped up." "How so, sir?" Buzz asked. "At 1200 hours, the Museum of Natural History on Capital Planet was robbed," Nebula explained. "A priceless emerald jewel of unknown origin was stolen by none other than old Agent Z himself." "Warp," Buzz said in slight hatred. "Yep, your old partner got himself cornered and fled desperately into null space," Nebula explained. "What? But that space isn't just uncharted. No one who went in ever came back," says Buzz. "My thoughts exactly. Until now, that is," Nebula stated. "Our intel intercepted communications between Warp and Zurg. The Emperor will be departing Planet Z and headed for Warp's location." "So you intend to intercept him?" Buzz asked. "On the contrary, we don't have the ability to catch up with him before he enters null space. So the plan will be to intercept him on his return," Nebula explained. "How do you know he'll escape null space, sir?" Buzz asked. "Considering Zurg's history, we can't take any chances," Nebula responds. "For some reason, the heist at the museum has the high-ups in the Galactic Alliance on edge, so we've been given the go-ahead to initiate an all-out assault against Zurg." "Sir, with all due respect, such a tactic could be compared to war," Buzz said. "It could leave whatever planet we occupy in scars." "In truth, Buzz, even I'm not ignorant enough to make myself think that this wasn't inevitable," Nebula said with a solemn voice. But it is what it is. This plan came specifically from the Galactic Alliance, and they're not tolerating any arguments this time." "If I may ask, sir, what planet are we occupying exactly?" asked Buzz. "In accordance to the route Zurg and Warp took to get into null space, they'd have to take the same route out," Nebula explained. "The operation will take place at a spaceport planet known as the port city of Crescentia, outside of the planet of Montresor." Buzz's expression then turns to one of worry. Back on Montresor, Jack is lying in bed, raising his great sword upward and still trying to take in everything that happened. Meanwhile, Stitch is curled up in his nook at the side of the bed, and trying to sleep. "A great sword, huh?" Jack asks himself. "Now that I think about it, this is exactly the kind of weapon I trained myself to use. Did this thing read my mind or something?" Stealthily, Jack sneaks out of his room by going out of his bedroom window and sliding off the roof quietly. Jack then stands in front of a large rock in Benbow's backyard and holds up his greatsword, ready to strike it. With one swipe of his sword, the rock is seemingly unharmed, until the tip of it shows that the blade had a delayed reaction, showed by the tip of the rock smoothly falling off. The rock tip then falls and breaks, luckily waking no one up.
Holy craters,
said Jack. Suddenly, Jack hears growling, only to turn and see Stitch growling in the direction of the wastelands. Jack then walks up to pet Stitch for a moment, followed by him looking in the same direction as Stitch, wondering what exactly he can sense. Meanwhile, on Montresor Spaceport, the Space Rangers of Star Command begin evacuating all civilians from the planet.
"Buzz Lightyear mission log," said Buzz's voice. "We began evacuation of Spaceport Crescentia at 0800 hours. This didn't bode well for the locals, or even Star Command, as the people of Montresor Spaceport's trust in Star Command waned. Kicking people out of their home planet doesn't exactly spread positivity. However, it only made me wonder more as to why the Galactic Alliance was so hasty to approve such a destructive operation since the heist on Capital Planet. I feel there may be more to this operation than meets the eye. All we can do now is follow orders, but as soon as this operation is over, I intend to get to the bottom of this conundrum, or my name isn't Buzz Lightyear." In the aftermath of the evacuation, Buzz Lightyear is seen talking into his wrist communicator for his current mission log. "Buzz Lightyear, signing off," Buzz concluded.
Buzz closes his communicator as one of his partners, Mira Nova, approaches him.
You're not a fan of this either, or are you?
Asked Mira. Not one bit, Mira, Buzz responded. But sadly, this is one chain of command we can't break. Star Command answers directly to the Galactic Alliance. So what they say goes.
But you gotta admit it's strange,
Mira says.
How could one gemstone from a museum warn all-out war against Zurg?
I don't know, but something smells like an Orcus Galacticus, Buzz says. Yuck! And those things smell gross, said a Space Ranger robot approaching Buzz alongside a big red alien.
But XR, you don't have a nose,
said the big red alien.
I've got a lot of primary sensors I'd rather not mention, Booster. Either way, hey, the only upside to this is that Zurg's finally going to see justice. Am I wrong? Depending on if it'll be enough, since we all know how resourceful Zurg can be,
Mira says as the group looks in the direction Zurg is meant to come from. Meanwhile, at the wastelands of Montresor, Jack and Stitch are roaming the wastelands, searching for where they found the sword.
Geez, is it too much to ask to find a single crater?
Said Jack as Stitch climbs up a rock to get a better view of the wastelands.
How about Tahiti?
It said as he pointed out the crater they were in before. Jack looks down to notice the crater.
Good job, pal,
said Jack as he runs down to the crater, followed by Stitch, who follows behind. As Jack and Stitch approach where the rock formations are, they approach to see the huge smog of flame-like smoke surrounding the cracked magic circle in the ground. Jack and Stitch stare hilariously at the scary sight.
Is it too much to assume that this sword may have been there for a reason?
Asked a slightly frightened Jack.
Ugh,
As slightly frightened Stitch responded. As the magic circle finally act for the final time, the magic circle then shatters, unleashing a column of black smoke into the sky. To avoid danger, Jack quickly took Stitch and both hid behind one of the pointed-up rocks surrounding the center of the crater. As the black smoke begins to calm down and enter the atmosphere less and less, it then begins to compact itself into the center of the crater. The compacted smoke begins to form into a familiar figure, someone adorned with black horns on the top of their head and wearing a black shrouded cloak. In the end, the figure showed to be a woman in black with green skin, yellow eyes, and ruby-red fingernails. The woman in black looks around to notice that she's in a crater under the night sky. Meanwhile, Jack and Stitch watch silently as they're shocked to see such a frightening individual.
It appears that this land, no, this world in its entirety is not my own,
The Horned Woman said.
I've studied the theories, but it seems that they are a reality. That accursed sorcerer must have banished me here after sealing me within the blade. Though it appears I'm finally free. And so there is but one reality. Someone has released Excalibur from its slumber, and so forth was chosen by the blade. It seems that I have also lost my staff, so I'll expend more mana than desired, but no matter.
The Horned Woman and then raises her hands and begins to radiate green aura.
Within the shadows and darkness that lies from those hidden shrouds, arise!
Shouts the Horned Woman. From the nearby shadows, a small group of pagan bird soldiers appear, as well as little small gremlin and demon-like figures, ready to serve their master.
Be ready, my servants, for on this day
the familiars stand around the Horned Woman in glee as she looks down at them with her back turned.
Maleficent has returned!
To be continued.